What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Pretty average week for waivers through Sunday, but unlike prior weeks where all the value was really at the running back position, we actually have some okay options at other positions this week, so that's nice to see. We'll still start off the running back though. Again, nothing super new here. I think the top priority is still Tyrone Tracy Jr. Singletary did return this week, so that was our big question mark. Was like, what was going to happen, right? When they have the return, we imagined that Tracy was playing so well that he would retain the starting job, but we didn't know. There was absolutely a chance to come the game time that Singletary took the lead, and we're like, oh, that stinks, and Tyrone Tracy went back to the bench. But that didn't happen. So Tracy remained the short yardage back. He remained the 2-minute drill back. He had 9 touches compared to 6 for Singletary. That does not mean it's going to continue all season. I don't know that we're going to be starting him at the Steelers this coming week, but whenever a rookie running back plays as well as he did in those 2 starts that he had, is still starting on his team, is getting short yardage, is getting, passing down snaps, they need to be rostered in 100% of leagues, even if we're not guaranteed to be playing them moving forward. After him, I think it's Ray Davis. We had another situation where Cook returned, but we talked about this one being like, I don't think this is a Tracy situation where it's like, there's no way they could really go to Singletary as that lead. It just felt like they had to keep rolling with Tracy. Not really the case with Ray Davis. It's like James Cook is good enough to where like he deserved to still be the starting running back. So as expected, Ray Davis saw, of course, a huge tip in his playing time. Bills got up big though, and so Ray Davis does get some blowout run. He scores on a 16-yard rushing touchdown. I believe the first play after like the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, only has 6 touches. 1 comes in the second quarter, 4 come in the third quarter, and then 1 final touch, again, 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. So you can't trust him, right? Anyone getting 6 touches, even if they look fantastic, I don't care how good you are, you can't trust anyone on 6 touches. But he's still number 2 here, because I think moving forward, it's like he was fantastic in that 1 start. He looks fantastic again on those 6 touches. It will get to the point where it's like, unless James Cook also looks like otherworldly, they're going to use Ray Davis. So again, a rookie doing this isn't someone who's like 28, 29, 30 years old where you're like, okay, that's nice, but they know they're not long-term plan. Like, they got to see what they have in Ray Davis. And it's not like you have to see, and it's like, oh, we have to like, see what we have in him. He's only getting 3 yards a touch, but gonna keep going with him. Like, he's looked really, really good. So I think his role continues to expand moving forward. He needs to be rostered in all leagues. Only other like high-end option I'm seeing at running back is Alexander Mattison. Zamir White did return from injury. He didn't play much. It's tough to know if that was just the role at this point, like Mattison has won the role, or this was the first week back. We didn't want to use him too much. And moving forward, maybe we see that, split kind of get reduced, get moved a little bit towards Zamir White, which I think is probably the more likely outcome. But Mattison still gained 123 yards on 26 touches. Wild to think that any team would give Mattison that many touches, but look at the quarterback play, right? They get the quarterback injured. They have Minshew backing him up. They have Adams gone. They have Myers out. And so you are sitting there as an offense coordinator being like, okay, do I force feed the ball to Brock Bowers every single play? Or do I, give a few looks to Mattison? Or what they had to do was both, right? Brock Bowers had 14 targets. Mattison had 26 touches. It's like they don't really have very many playmakers. So even if Madison's not that good, you have to give the ball to someone, and they don't really want to drop back 50 times. So remains to be seen, again, the exact split, what it's going to be long-term between Mattison and White. But like I've said with all these 3, anyone who looks as good as Tracy and Ray Davis as a rookie needs to be rostered. And then anyone getting 26 touches needs to be rostered. You just have to roster these 3 at the running back position. After those top 3, I think you're honestly just looking at guys from tonight's game. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Don't have a crystal ball, but Trey Benson, Kimani Vidal, and Sean Tucker. With Benson, I don't think it's going to happen, but see if the role expands. Right now, he's been operating as a handcuff, as a backup, as, okay, James Conner either is hurt, has fumbled, or is tired. That's when he goes onto the field. It is not when the game is close, when Conner has not fumbled, and when Conner is healthy. In those situations, it is James Conner as the lead featured back on this offense. If that changes, if Benson starts to get more run, maybe they start splitting drives, that would be exciting to see. With Vidal, similar thing. I mean, Vidal has less run, right? Like he just was activated for the first time last week, I believe. But look at the split, right? Dobbins has been dominating the touches. I know Vidal had the one receiving touchdown last week, but Dobbins is getting a ton of touches. Does that situation start to get a little bit closer? Do they start to lean on Vidal for drives? Does Vidal get 7-8 touches this week, and we see a little bit lower for Dobbins? So check that out. And then Sean Tucker. They said they're rolling with a 3 running back committee. They said they're going to use the hot hand. I cannot imagine that Rachaad White will end up being that hot hand. So was it just like a pile of garbage that they were feeding us? Or would they actually be willing to, after splitting some drives to start, seeing that Tucker's outperforming White, would they actually be willing to have Rachaad White active and not use him if Sean Tucker is performing really well, or Bucky Irving as well? Because Bucky Irving is still a great running back. I don't want to like completely overshadow what he's done. He's rostered, I think, in too many leagues to like actually talk about in the studio. But Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker, they're the best 2 running backs on this team. And so the question really tonight is, will they actually use those 2 if they're outproducing White, or will they still just keep using White? In which case, 3 running back committee, not very great. But again, Sean Tucker looked fantastic last week. If he keeps looking this good, he's someone that has a ceiling. I forget who it was, maybe Ben Gretch or something like that on Twitter, kind of talking about like when we have these backups, you really need to think about what their actual ceiling is if things go their way. And Sean Tucker is a player where we know the offense is good. If he's actually as good as we just saw, and like imagine that happened in week 1. Imagine Sean Tucker, because remember he had I don't think people like fully are comprehending what happened last week. He had 192 yards last week. Like he had nearly 200 yards, and he's really not being talked about all that much. Like 200 yards at the running back position, that's pretty insane. If someone has that sort of ceiling, maybe they are someone that we should be heavily considering as a stash in our bench, because if they hit, that's league winning. Whereas if other players hit, it might be hit in terms of like they're getting more run. They're being used as a 1B. And it's like, well, that's not league winning. That's like hopefully somebody's going to use you as a running back too. So just something to think about with him. But again, I'll be pretty excited if him or Bucky Irving is actually just used more. They just need to trade Rachaad White at this point. Behind those guys, it's pure just like dart throws in my eyes. Kendre Miller, Keaton Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. With Kendre Miller, he's healthy for now. We'll see if he can stay healthy. And I do think he's going to or already has passed Jamal Williams. Like Williams is not someone they want to be using. So I think it's pretty clear that Kendre Miller will be the backup to Alvin Kamara. With all the injuries, maybe he gets a little bit more run, but it's still the Kamara show for that offense. Keaton Mitchell, going to return soon. I don't think they have a real like hard timeline yet, and he's still a pure handcuff behind Derrick Henry, but he'd be the early down handcuff. And if Henry were to get hurt in like a month and you have Keaton Mitchell coming back, could Keaton Mitchell get 10 to 12 carries a game, be someone you're relying on as running back too? Maybe. And then Clyde, I believe Clyde's returning this next week. They have trusted Kareem Hunt with a lot of touches so far, but there's still a chance that Clyde just is better than Kareem Hunt. It's not like Kareem Hunt has been good. Like he's been fine, and they trust him to go out there and get like 3 to 4 yards a carry, to not fumble, to be a threat in the receiving game, but he's not like actually a good running back. Don't really think it happens. And to be honest, Pacheco will probably return before this even matters all that much. Like he's not returning super soon, but like this is still a multi-week thing with Clyde. So all 3, honestly, fairly low likelihood bets, but all have at least a path to production. So if you're in a 12 team league with like a deeper bench, a 14, 16 team league, they'd be options for you as like that last spot. At wide receiver, not many options, but a few names that do make the list that we have not talked about yet. Dobbs, we have talked about for like every single week up to this point. He's on the field more than any other Packers wide receiver. He's actually the wide receiver 4 overall since being suspended for being frustrated he's not getting enough targets. So kind of funny there. But yeah, I mean, we say it every week, and he still kind of remains as rostered as he always is every week. But yeah, he's on the field more than any other Packers wide receiver. After him, I think it's Juwan Jennings. I'm hoping it's not true, but the initial reports on Sunday were that Ayuk did tear his ACL. I have not seen that confirmed as of recording this video. That might be confirmed sometime on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's Jordan time. But Jennings, he was out this week, so we didn't see him, of course, but it wasn't a long-term injury. He should return soon. When he does return, he's going to step into an every down role. He's going to have a decent target share. We saw him have, I believe it was still the best game of any wide receiver this season, so he clearly has some sort of ceiling. Obviously, it's an elite offense. Pearsall also going to step up now. So Pearsall, of course, missed a lot of camp with injuries. Then he was shot, and so he missed the rest of camp for that. He missed the first 4 weeks of the season recovering from that. So he's way behind like what we thought he would be at this point, right? Because we were talking him up as like someone who, could be a huge breakout, because when you look at wide receiver breakouts, you look at talent. Well, he's a first-round talent, and he's someone that a lot of film scouts like really, really liked. You look at opportunity, wasn't there, but we know that the amount of injuries that this offense has had over the years, you kind of figured someone at some point was going to miss time, and we've seen that play out through the first 6-7 weeks of the season. It's going to keep playing out through the rest of the season, so people just get hurt on San Fran. And then you look at quarterback play, and it's like we have good quarterback play. So you got to hit on all three of the areas that can produce a breakout for rookie. It's just that he needed camp. He needed these first couple of weeks. He needed to develop. It's still going to take him time. So I don't think Pearsall is going to go out there like next week and be commanding like 10 targets. But he's someone that you would maybe stash. I'd still prefer Juwan over Pearsall. But, in weeks like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, as he kind of gets going, could he be someone that you're relying on as like a low-end running back too? Maybe, and that's definitely worth stashing. After the San Fran wide receivers, Keon Coleman had a really good game, 4 receptions, 125 yards. I think that was the most yards he's had in his short career. It was on 75% of the snaps as well. That's really nice to see. Amari Cooper is going to earn a strong target share, probably stronger also than he saw in this first game, of course, because it was his first game with the team. But we talked all summer, we talked to start the year how Keon was miscast as next wide receiver. He's just not next wide receiver. He should not be their wide receiver one. We've been saying that for a while, and so he was overdrafted in fantasy. Realistically, that means that like this is bad, of course, that they bring in Amari Cooper. You have someone who's clearly talented, going to command targets. You have Shakir on the team as well. You have Dalton Kincaid. You have what is basically like a run-first offense as well. And so I don't think Keon Coleman has an exceptional target ceiling, but I know a lot of people dropped him after the trade, dropped him after recent performances that were not that good. He still has some upside because he's still a very athletic player. Even if he's very raw, he's a very athletic player, and he's now not going to see primary coverage. He's not going to operate as that true X wide receiver. He's going to be able to be more what he should be, which is that really athletic number 2 wide receiver that can get deep downfield, that can win contested catches, but does not need to separate as a true number 1 wide receiver. That's now his role. That's good. So efficiency goes up, volume goes down, maybe some sort of a wash. And so if he was dropped, that's a good guy to go after. One player I'm pretty excited about is Cedric Tillman. It's still a low probability bet, but the Browns, they trade away Amari Cooper. That caused Tillman to jump from about 35% of the snaps up to 82%. He had 12 targets, 8 for 81 on those targets. Judy's been really bad in this offense. Elijah Moore has really only been getting short looks. And so Tillman has a chance to be their starting outside wide receiver, to command a relatively decent target share, and to be getting looks downfield. We also know now Watson done for the season. Dorian Thompson-Robinson also suffered an injury. He's also not that good. And so Winston, he comes in on the final drive. He throws 4 downfield passes. He ultimately throws the touchdown. He finishes as the quarterback 19 on the week, at least through Sunday, despite only playing 1 drive. We'll talk about Winston in a second when we go over quarterbacks. It's less so that I think, especially now trading away Amari Cooper, less so that I think Winston himself is going to be like a top 5 quarterback, right? I don't think that's going to happen. It's more that what he opens up for this offense. Like Deshaun Watson was not being aggressive downfield. He was inaccurate. He was taking a ton of sacks. And so that really hurts all these skill players. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, also not a player that is going to elevate the passing weapons on the team. But Winston is. Winston is someone who is going to force the ball downfield, going to be aggressive, and that's going to make, if Winston can start, through the rest of the season, or at least for the upcoming schedule, that's going to make David Njoku a league winner. It's going to have Jerry Jeudy have his moments. I don't know if he'll ever be someone we're trusting every week, but he'll have his moments for production. But Cedric Tillman, I feel like Cedric Tillman is the guy I want to be going after. I think they should have been giving him more run to begin with. He's still a pretty decent wide receiver. I just think he's someone that it's not a flash in the pan. I guess that's the overall take here, is that if Winston is a quarterback moving forward, it doesn't necessarily mean he's throwing for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns every week, but it means he's going to be aggressive, and the person that's going to benefit from that is their starting outside wide receiver who can get downfield, and that is Cedric Tillman. So I would definitely be going after him on waivers. After Tillman, I think you consider Troy Franklin, probably more in deeper leagues, 8, 10-team leagues. I don't think you have to even consider him. But he's a prospect my model really, really liked, even factoring in that Ladd, Burton, McMillan, McCaffrey, and Corley were all drafted before him, and some of them way before him. My model still thought that Troy Franklin was the one that you want in fantasy. His snaps have been trending up, and honestly, you can look at the snaps and be like, oh, there's a little bit of a dip last week. It was still trending up in that, they blew out the Saints, right? Had that game not been a complete blowout by halftime, Troy Franklin probably would have set another career high in snaps. So that's going up. He's going to be on the field a lot. I just think that he's someone that there's potential there. Is there an insane ceiling? Probably not. But if he's someone that can consistently command 5 to 7 targets every week, he could be someone, again, in deeper formats. I think he's a good player. I think they want him to be productive, and he is being productive. Let's be honest, it's not like any of the wide receivers on Denver have been all that amazing. And so if you have one that's going out there, is commanding looks, and is producing on those looks, they're going to stay on the field, right? They're not going to be benched for someone who's doing nothing. Only other wide receiver I think are just someone to watch tonight. Michael Wilson, I mention him every single week, but he's playing really well. We're not going to get that spot start we thought we may have in the last Waiver video, because it looks like Marvin Harrison Jr. has passed concussion protocol. He is going to play, but he's still someone that bye weeks, big bye weeks are coming up soon. It's going to be nice. Injuries keep happening. So having someone on your bench that doesn't necessarily have a wide receiver 1 ceiling in the range of outcomes, but someone who's going to be on a decent offense, going to command looks, and is talented, I think is just worth rostering as that last player. At quarterback, pretty decent week, honestly. Sam Darnold, still the number 1 option. There are definitely leagues out there where he is not rostered. He should be rostered. He's at the Rams this next week. Again, the Vikings have a very strong schedule coming up for passing. Drake May, not great this week. It's versus the Jets, but the Jets defense is banged up. They have not looked like themselves, and he's thrown for at least 240 passing yards and 2+ touchdowns in both of his starts. He's also going to scramble a decent amount, so he is a strong option rest of season. He is someone who you actually could use this coming week if the Jets defense just cannot get healthy. Russell Wilson, rough start to the Sunday night game for sure. He looked terrible to start, but then honestly, I don't want to say he looked great, because he definitely overperformed. My guess is that my trade model has him as the number 1 sell high. He only completed 16 of 29 passes, but a lot of those happened to be downfield. He had some great contested catches for Pickens. On average, a few of those maybe won't be completed, but he goes for 262 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has a quarterback sneak on top of them. I believe right now he's the quarterback 1 on the week. Maybe someone on Monday night will pass him, but he's probably going to finish the top 3 quarterback on the week. That's wild. He's home versus the Giants this upcoming week. That's another spot where the Giants are terrible at man coverage. They just allow so many fantasy points per dropback. Pickens is going to be in a great spot if they're going to keep going to him for contested catches. This is great news for Pickens. Honestly, Fields just wasn't throwing him the ball, and part of that was that they were going with a very run-first offense, which they still will be a run-first offense, but Russ looked perfectly willing to throw him contested catches when he is not even open, and Pickens is good enough to win in that area. That is what Pickens is. He's dominant downfield, and so if Fields is actually going to do that, it is wheels up for Pickens. Obviously, he's not available in free agency, but point being, if you have Pickens, I'd be very, very pleased with what we saw this last week. It's kind of tough to value Fields versus Wilson rest of season. I feel like there was a chance if a couple more drives went bad for Wilson that they would have thrown Fields in there. It's just tough to know. But I think that probably locked in like a couple more games where even if Wilson doesn't look amazing, he's probably got a little bit longer leash. I would say like there's at least 2 or 3 more starts that he's going to make. So that doesn't matter too much because you're really more spot starting Wilson. But I think you can just feel a little bit more confident that maybe he won't get benched mid-game, because that's basically the big concern is you pick up Russ, he has a few bad drives, and then bench him for Fields. I think that game gave him a leash where it's like, unless he's completely terrible, he's probably not going to be benched mid-game right now. You could also take a shot on Jameis Winston, as you said before. Again, I don't actually know if he's going to start this next week. It's also versus the Ravens, so not an ideal matchup, but like I said, he's a super aggressive quarterback, even without Amari Cooper. The Browns do have playmakers on offense, and there is a very real chance that you can stream him moving forward. Again, I want to reiterate, I'm more excited about the skill players for the Browns, less so about, Winston being a top 5 quarterback. That's not going to happen, but I think streaming wise, I think you can stream him moving forward. Again, if he starts. Tua, he'll be home versus the Cardinals. Not confirmed yet that he's going to start in week 8, but he's eligible to. He wants to, and so if he does, he'll be risky, but one that you can 100% stream. Mariota, if you have Jaden Daniels, it seems like Daniels is going to be okay, but there's still a chance he misses a game or two. Not a good matchup, home versus the Bears, but I would just say if you have Daniels, just add Mariota, and then you're just covered no matter what happens. Bo Nix, home versus the Panthers. I know it sounds gross, but Bo Nix has 136 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. He is averaging on the season over 6 points per game on rushing alone. He's up to 19th overall in points per game. That's not amazing, but hey, he's 0.3 points per game behind CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, and so we should definitely be at least paying attention to him. And then finally, Aaron Rodgers is at the Patriots. They've had a tough time on defense recently. Aaron Rodgers, much higher ceiling now that you have Adams and Garrett Wilson on offense. He's probably my least favorite on this list, but definitely worth mentioning because if he really gets it going with Devonta Adams and Garrett Wilson can also develop, and you have Breece Hall, it's like this can be a really good offense. And we saw glimpses of that in this first game. I think moving forward, Rodgers will be someone who doesn't have a high ceiling. Like he's fine higher than he had before, obviously, but he's not someone who's going to go out there and have like 350 and 3 touchdowns. But I think he could be a consistent low-end option, probably more of someone in like super flex you kind of want as that quarterback too. For defense streaming, you actually have a lot of quality options. And whenever you have a week like this, you probably just want to like on your waiver wire, if you're doing fab, just throw like 2 or 3% on like all of the options that are available, and then you'll probably land one of them just instead of going after like 10% fab for one of them, like just 1, 2, 3% on them. Basically for streaming defense this season, whoever is playing the Giants, Raiders, Panthers, Browns, Patriots, and Titans, and then you can throw the Saints and Dolphins onto the list as well if Carr and Tua are out. If Carr or Tua return, of course, the Saints and Dolphins are not as good to stream against. I really just wouldn't stream against the Dolphins if Tua is a quarterback. But again, Giants, Raiders, Panthers, Browns, Pats, Titans. Whoever is playing them, unless they're horrible on defense, you want to be streaming. This week, that is the Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Ravens, Jets, Lions, and Cardinals. All potential options for you this week. I think that is the order I would claim them in. Chargers in particular, if you're looking for someone for the next couple of weeks, versus the Saints, at the Browns, versus the Titans. And so they're a strong option. Again, if you want someone where it's not like every single week you're adding a dropping defense, they'll be an option for the next 3 weeks. Then finally, tight end, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant, Zach Ertz, remain good options. We talk about them every week. Cade Otton, depending on what happens tonight. But those are names every week we go over. They are options. I don't think any of them are going to break out and be amazing. Hunter Henry, he's just a player. You just got to deal with it. Like, he's going to have games where he has 8 for 80 and a touchdown. And then the next week he's going to have like 1 for 15. I do think, again, like I said, Drake May is going to elevate this offense, and Hunter Henry is going to be better under Drake May than he was under Jacoby Brissett. But still, Hunter Henry is not going to be a consistent option. So don't think, he's going to go off every week. look at his box scores. They're going to be up and down. I think the new options this week are Taysom Hill and Ja'Tavion Sanders. Hill should return soon. He's been limited in practice this last week. Doesn't ultimately get activated. I think maybe this week or next week kind of is when he's going to return. Shaheed done for the season, and so they really are going to have to lean on Taysom Hill. You're not claiming him or anything if he's only quarterback eligible. He has to be tight end eligible, but if you hate your tight end right now, Taysom Hill, pretty decent stash. And then Sanders, rookie tight end for the Panthers. He looks good. He just looks really athletic. He looks good with the ball in his hands. Is he going to go out there and command targets in terms of elite route running? No, but he seems somewhat like someone that they can just kind of scheme. Honestly, they can scheme 3 to 5 receptions to every week if they really wanted to, given that they're going to be trailing most games. And I think he's going to do decent on that. So no sort of actual ceiling, but if you were in a 14 or 16 team league and you hate your tight end, he would be an okay option. I do want to mention Tommy Tremble's been out, so that's why he's been seeing more snaps. But again, he's playing well. He's a rookie, and they stink. So why would you not just keep using him, keep giving him snaps, develop him, see if he's going to be in your plans moving forward? So I do actually think they're going to keep rolling with him, but understand that if Tommy Tremble got activated, I would have to definitely drop Sanders in the rankings. And it's not like he's going to project that well. Again, no ceiling, low round option, but in deeper formats, not terrible. So I'll update the waiver wire table on the website after tonight's games, but that's how things are looking through Sunday for week 8. Rest of season rankings, week 8 rankings, strength of schedule, matchups, all going to be posted tomorrow. I'm also going to add a rest of season defense streaming table to the site as well. So a ton of extra content over there if you are interested. Again, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. That'll do it for this one, though. Leave a like if you watch this far. Be sure to subscribe if you are new here, and I'll see you all for the trade video on Wednesday.